my dealership, automatically has a hand scan, and I also wanted to try to do a video. So I just find the cars in the area that don't have a whole lot of great features, just the normal vehicle. And I did a video for all 5 of them, and everyone was over the video.
Wow. And how does that compare to normal term?
Vehicles like that, because they're higher mileage, or just base model or whatever, they'll usually have a 30 or return permit, and they're not in 5 days.
Wow. It's huge. Okay. Let's switch gears here a little bit and talk about vehicle descriptions. So we talked about photos, we talked about videos, and now the boring words, but they don't need to be so boring. Rich verbiage. I'm not even sure why I put that in my presentation, so I don't know what to say. Have rich verbiage. I'm just seeing that. I don't want to, avoid all caps. All caps are really difficult to read. It sounds like you're shouting at somebody. My opinion is they look like a bunch of bricks, and so I see it and I'm like, oh, I can't read that. Whenever I read a contract, it always seems like the one section is all caps, and I always just assume, well, I assume the attorneys are okay with that part. Skip down to the upper and lowercase part. Vehicle history, definitely should do vehicle history. I'm a big fan of Carfax. They do a great job of being in the business for a long time. Seller's notes, I'll show you some stats on some slides coming up here on the impact of seller's notes. VIN descriptions, this might get a little hairy, I apologize. I think it's important, but it may seem a little techy, but I'll give it a shot. So VIN decoders, not all VIN decoders are created equal. And so you get tons of people that, and I think I understand VIN decoding pretty darn well. And you still get people to say, I can decode 100% of the VINs all the way down to trim level every single time. I know the transmission, I know everything about the car. Color, I can get it all from the VIN if you use my company. It's just, you got to know that that's just not the truth. And I think the way to snuff that out is to take your different vendors. I think you should choose a vendor if you're doing it yourself or a third party that's great at VIN decoding. There's some tricks that you can do to get better at VIN decoding, but give each of them 10 VINs that they can't find other places, and have them decode them and get them back to you, hopefully really quickly. And then compare those and see what they can get just from the VIN. You get nothing else. They don't want to be cars on your lot that they may be able to go on your website and find, and see how that compares. If you get really slick about VIN decoding, the VIN only contains certain information: year, make, model, body style, engine, fuel system. Sometimes it knows the transmission. You can make assumptions if you have intelligent inventory management systems. You can make assumptions to say, Lincoln Continentals don't cover the stick shift. They always have error. There's certain things you can do, and you say, well, did the VIN really know that? No, the VIN didn't know it, but I know how they make these cars. And if it's a cold weather package, they always have these 3 options in addition. That's just how they're made. That gets into configuration data. And that kind of matters too. So you want a strong VIN decoder, and you want a company that really understands configuration. There's some great providers out there. We roll our own on that just because we use so much VIN decoding and configuration data. But put them all to the test and find out which one works the best. Normalize the data, matching configurations. So what's this stuff mean? I think it's really important. What I see search. I had a conversation with some of the folks at Cars.com a couple weeks ago, and they were telling me about how they've improved their search, their front-end search, and how you can now search by options and search by trim level. So as an example, what if your website or the portal that you find very effective, you can search by GPS, but your data is described in a way that sometimes it says nav, sometimes it says navigation, sometimes it says GPS or G-space P space S, whatever it is. The data is not normalized, so it can't be searched. And so it can be irritating. So people searching for nav, they might find some of your cars, but they might not find all your cars. And so I think it's important, and again, I'm not trying to create complication, but it's a good awareness to have to get those vendors together with your inventory management vendor and say, look, folks, are you singing out of the same hymn book? Do you all use Chrome? Do you all use JADO? Do you all, in other words, they need to kind of describe the vehicle in a similar way so it can be searchable. Same thing with trim level. Trim levels are a hairy thing, and so, again, all the trims have to be described in a normal way. The colors have to be normalized. Pick a vendor that doesn't just use one color. You don't want sandalwood, when the car, when the search engine was looking for tan, so pick a vendor that uses multiple color fields. One is a searchable color field, and the other is another described color field. Again, go up and search for your inventory and search for it in a granular way and see if you can find it, see if it finds it every time. And that may help you answer some of those questions. But and again, if you have good integration between your inventory tool and your website, if they're the same vendor, typically they got that problem figured out. The portals can be a little more challenging, but just one of those finer points to pay attention to. Yes?
I find that's more of the case with certain transmissions, specialized cars.
Okay?
Things like Corvettes, you're looking for the 6 feet or the 6 feet for the manual. It's always come up with the same description. You have 3 different choices of transmission. Well, there's 1 or 2 choices.
Right.
You have 3 or 4 choices sometimes depending on the car. It's mostly specialized vehicles, but I find you can go back in and change everything to make sure it matches. Any best practices in how to make sure those do come up true with your searches?
Again, the way I look at it is, you know, and I've used every system out there, and we decided to build our own years ago, but you know, I've used Chrome, they're great, it's great stuff, Autodata, JADO, all good stuff. But you got, you know, if your inventory manager is using Chrome, the portal uses JADO, you know, the IDs aren't going to match, unless they've got those matched out, typically they don't. You know, that was one of the headaches that we had, so we said, well, all of our websites are going to describe data, are going to search for data the same way that all the inventory in our database is described. Because we just know that that's irritating and we want to just get past that. And so I think you just you know, again, it's kind of an under the hood kind of question, but you might want to ask, who do you guys use? There's only 3, right? There's Chrome, JADO, and Autodata. And then us, ours is, we brand it as Titanium. We sell to a lot of third parties as well. But you want to find out who they use, and are they integrated? Are they using the same system? Didn't mean to spend a ton of time on that, but it's when you're around data for a lot of years, you see those things, and you get the calls from dealers. It's irritating, and we want to figure it out for dealers. Vehicle pricing. This is a no-brainer. I don't think there's too many people that are putting vehicles up there without a price. Search for vehicles using a price range. I think this is another one of those finer points. You know, if you're marking your car as $99.99, but the search engine has a click option that says, you know, search for cars above 10,000. Well, that's kind of that might be a problem, right? Because your car that's $1 less than 10,000 is not showing up. You know, it's at $99.99. So again, you know, I think the way to start is to go to the portal, go to your website, look at the way that the pricing configuration that you can search for vehicles, and make sure your vehicles are priced the right way. And maybe the pricing the car at $10,000. It doesn't look as sexy as the $99.99, but you have more confidence that it's being pulled up in the search results. You know, use one of these inventory management tools, either ours or the great other solutions out there to price your vehicles. You know, I'm not going to say that the books are dead, you know, Kelly and Black Book and NADA books, but there's no way that they can be as responsive to the market as market-based pricing. It's just that you know, you just can't keep up with it. And even if they could print those or produce the books in real time, does it really matter that it's you know, priced at Kelly or whatever it is, when in fact all the competitive cars are priced below or above, and you're leaving money on the table? And so market-based pricing is definitely where it's at. All right, here's the Cars.com study I talked about. They did a study in 2009. They did another one in 2010. They haven't redone it, but I think this data is very relevant. It was done in 2010, and it was a study done to find the effects of merchandising on results that they found. And they went to great pains to do this. They factored out seasonality and the different models and different times of day, traffic, and it was fairly sophisticated. And they were nice enough to allow me to share some of this information. So no surprises here. If you have a price, you're gonna have you know, more results on your search results, on your vehicle detail pages, and ultimately on your leads. They call it contacts in this study. Photos, having photos, of course, you know, makes a difference. Increases your search results by 20. I would think increase it by much more. Doubling your contacts, tripling VDPs. More is better. They're saying 10 plus sees the best results, and their sweet spot in 2010 was 20 photos. So you know, I would look at that and say, well, maybe it's 24 now. If we see the number of photos increasing all the time, and there is some point of no return. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to look at over 100 photos. But their ideal number, in other words, the number that they saw that the listings, they would continue to get more activity compared to cars that didn't have 20 or more, you know, that was that magic number. So that's pretty tough. I heard one time. Seller's notes, this is great data. I have not seen this data before. So adding seller's notes increases contacts by 50%. Quality and quantity matter. What does that mean? So in your quality, you want to put strong calls to action. I would also argue you want to put those key options, you want to put those points of differentiation and get them early in those seller notes so that they show up on your search results page. More than 120 words increases contacts by 80 compared to those seller's notes. Seems important to me also, but just commit yourself to seller's notes. You know, if you have less than 120 words, don't beat yourself up. Get seller's notes on there. Get you know, in the first 100 or 200 characters, have the most critical information. It'll help you. Inventory syndication. That means distributing data across the internet. From a dealer's perspective, I think you want to maximize your shelf space. You want to get your inventory out there as many places as possible with reputable sites that has the right level of ROI. I talked earlier about having that full funnel kind of integration, being able to look and see what my results are from keywords, how they found my site, all the way through the shopping experience, through leads, showroom, and sale. You got to have that to make advertising decisions. I'm not sure you can make good advertising decisions unless you know all the way through, what kind of results you've got. And so, again, once you have that, you're able to look at your ROI from all the different investments and know where you want to spend more, where you want to spend less. Single database, you want to have one version of the truth. Talk to your inventory management company about that. There should be one single database where all the edits come into, and you know that that's your point of syndication where all the data goes in. You don't want to have lack of control over, how'd that price get out to that site, it's right in this database and it's wrong on AutoTrader or whatever it is. You want to make sure that you've got one version of the truth, and then real time. Not only for getting inventory up there fast, anybody ever sold a car for more on the lot than when they have it listed online? And just that panic to try to get the car off or get the price lowered or do something, real time helps that. Whether you're changing the price or whether you're just sending an internet black egg and that listing just goes away. Real time is going to be a tricky one because you gotta not only go to your inventory management company, but you got to go to your portal and your website provider, and they got to be hand in hand there because they depend on each other. Make sure that they've got a good relationship. For if they're not real time, overnight updates. 10 years ago, multiple updates, 5 updates a day. Let's do something like that. Craigslist and eBay. I asked eBay earlier. Anybody using Craigslist? Got to be using Craigslist, right? So. These two sites offer opportunities. It's certainly an opportunity to address an audience that you may not be addressing. There's also some challenges. You got to build ads in eBay. You got to manage the auction. With Craigslist, they've got you can only list so many cars a day, and you got to really be careful about being seen as a spammer. But traffic continues to grow for those, especially for Craigslist, and so I think that's a good opportunity. Inventory management tool, this slide's probably out of place. I should have had that earlier. That's an example of ours. There's some great ones out there. It's a great way to price your vehicles. Tying in on a lot, merchandising, of course, people still visit dealerships. They want your dealership to look presentable. Full color window labels, branded with your dealership information. Windshield band-aids, mirror hang tags are a great thing. Dealers have used for a lot of years. QR codes. Who's using QR codes on the vehicle? Anybody? Right, so that's a common thing that your window label provider or your inventory management tool should be able to provide for you. You can do a lot of things with them. I'll show you some stats here where the QR code usage and traffic is really climbing. A lot of people were speculating a year ago that these things were going to kind of flash in the pan, but in fact, the usage continues to grow. You can link, I think the last general speaker was talking about all the different things you can do with it. Not just a web address, you can dial a phone number with it. They scan it, it immediately dials a phone number or sends a text. Pretty impressive. Here's just some general stats. Your QR code usage jumping out there. There's a magazine study above. Another one, 2011 over 2010. Scans increased 300%. There's an example of what that might look like. That's a cheap and easy thing to do. If they're not scanning them, a certain percentage are going to be scanning them. If they're not, I think it shows you doing something on the technology side. Here's our data. that I just got, in fact, on the flight out here. It shows the number of scans per dealer per month. So we've got a lot of dealers that ask for a QR code on their label. We track that because we create the QR code for them and track all the stats. And that's the scans per dealer per month. And I mean, that's great. I mean, you're engaging the customer in a different way. You're giving them great information that they can then share and syndicate, to friends. A great way to stand apart. So what's the future of merchandising? This one may be tongue-in-cheek. Anybody heard of Google Glasses? Augmented reality? This is kind of neat stuff to follow. There's a number of apps. Yelp does it on their app. There's a lot of games out there with augmented reality. But augmented reality just means using my camera on my phone, or these new Google Glasses that will come out soon, to be able to layer on the internet onto the real world. And so, like for instance, here's a mini magazine ad where if you download this app and you take your camera and you look at you look through the camera at the page, the car appears. You can spin the car around and you can get different information about the car. The idea behind the Google Glasses is just a little piece, a Bluetooth piece you hook onto your glasses, and it would just do a little heads-up display as you're walking down the street and say, "I'm really craving Chipotle." And they say, "Oh, wow, there's one up here to the right." Or a mile down the road, or driving directions. That's for a dealer. I think the opportunity, being able to look at a vehicle and find important information about the vehicle by looking at it with augmented reality. Who knows? Something to have fun with and just see the way the technology is advancing. I use the Yelp augmented reality a lot. Again, I'll be downtown in a new city, and I'll say I want Thai food, and just kind of direct you where you want to go. And you can just walk with it. It takes you right there. It tells you the ratings. Pretty neat stuff. This next slide should match your handout that I gave you all. Are some best practices. I'll stay and take questions for as long as you guys have patience for it. But I really appreciate your time, and glad to send you the presentation as well. If you just the next slide will have my email address. Glad to send you the presentation or answer any questions you have, or be a resource for you afterwards if you have questions that pop up. Glad to help you in any way. I appreciate everybody willingness to sit through one of my favorite topics.